Well, the Ducks did it. They broke a record, an actual NHL record, but this is probably not one that the Ducks want. I'll talk about that and more on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi everyone, happy Monday to you and welcome to a new week of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade and thank you for tuning in. Just a reminder, this episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Go to HelloFresh.com/NHL60 and use code NHL60 for 60% off plus free shipping. All right, so it's a new week of shows, and I've got a couple of games to talk about. But before I talk about the games itself, the Ducks did it. They now are the owners, the sole owners, of a dubious NHL record that I've been alluding to for the past few days. And I'm not even going to go graphic this time. I'm just going to come out and say it. The Anaheim Ducks have the all-time record as a team for most shots allowed in a season. The previous record was 3,080 set by the Capitals, and the Ducks not only broke it, they broke it on Saturday. They steamrolled past it on Sunday. The previous record was 3,080. The Ducks are currently very clear of that. Way clear of that. As of this recording, the Ducks have 3,135 shots allowed in the season. The league average is 2,485. So they are exactly 650 shots above the average. That's the average, folks. That's how bad this record is. And I'm just going to say it again. That's how bad this defense has been all season long. Here's who the Ducks have fielded on defense so far this season. You've had Nathan Beaulieu for a lot of games, who's currently still there. Simon Benoit, who has been here for most of the season. You have Cam Fowler, who's been the only Ducks player to play in every game so far this season. Kevin Shattenkirk, who has almost played every game this season. Then you also have Jamie Drysdale, who's been injured. Scott Harrington, who's up right now. Drew Helleson, yay, he's up with the Ducks. Yeah, good for him. John Klingberg, Dmitry Kulikov, bye-bye. Austin Strand for 5 games. I would have liked to have seen Austin Strand for a few more games. Oh well. Urho Vakanainen, Colton White. Those are your defensemen this season. Do any of those defensemen strike fear in the opposition? Definitely not. I would say the only one that has at least been fairly good on defense and has been a good minutes eater has been Cam Fowler, who also broke a different NHL record. That, you know what, I'll talk about that, in a second. But going back to this shots record, the defense has been so just, here you go. Here's a shot. There's a shot. Everybody gets a shot. It really has been like that all season long. That's the 2023 Ducks. Is the discipline on defense just has not been there. You could point to a number of factors on this. You could point to the personnel just has not been there. You could point to the coaching has not been there. You could point to the opposition having their best. No, I'm not going to point to opposition, but I will point mostly to the lack of personnel and the coaching. A lot of people know that at this point of the season, Dallas Eakins, pun intended, is pretty much a lame duck at this point. He's got 2 games left. His contract is up after this season. All indications are that Dallas Eakins is not coming back next season. And the Ducks still hadn't fired him. I will give Dallas Eakins credit for sticking with the team, trying to navigate through what's been just a terrible season. And you know what? Like, this is kind of meant not as a jab, not as a joke, but, I got to give Dallas credit for not getting himself fired the last 4 seasons. What he's said or what he's done outside of the rink, like, he's a great, great person. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for Dallas Eakins as a person. He's one of the best out there. But unfortunately, it's just one of those things where he's been a more than brilliant coach in the American Hockey League. And, unfortunately, it just has never translated to the National Hockey League. This goes back to his days as the head coach for the Oilers. And this is now as head coach of the Ducks. Although there is kind of a parallel there, if you think about this. Dallas Eakins was the coach of a terrible Oilers team a few years ago. Okay, just go with me on this, folks. Dallas Eakins, solid enough player. Coaching-wise, he was in Edmonton during those dog years. Those really just dog-awful years. In 2014 and 2015, he got himself fired in 2015. And what happened as a result of those terrible years? I'll give you about 2 seconds to think about what happened after that. They got Connor McDavid. The Edmonton Oilers were bad enough that they wound up getting a top pick. And what happened with that top pick? They got some guy who was really very good. So I guess it did kind of work out for Edmonton that in that 2015 NHL draft, they got Connor McDavid and did not wind up with Jack Eichel. So I'm trying to find some optimism here and some parallels in this bad season. Dallas Eakins, he was bad for those 2 years in Edmonton, and the result, they got the number 1 pick. They got Connor McDavid. Dallas Eakins is on his way out in Anaheim. Could the reward be the number 1 pick? Can history repeat itself? Can a Dallas Eakins-led team that winds up with a poor record ends up with the number 1 overall pick in this year's NHL draft? A little bit of weird parallels to think about in just a bad era of Ducks hockey, let's face it. But if there can be some good that comes out of this, if the Ducks can get Connor Bedard, then was it worth it? Ask yourselves that. Is it worth it if the Ducks can land either Connor Bedard or even Fantilli? It might be worth it. It could be worth it. I'm just saying. The parallels, they're right there. And this record, I don't think this record's going to get broken anytime soon. And there's still 2 games left. So just to go more on this record, as of right now, 3,135 shots. They might get to 3,200 shots allowed, and that would just bulldoze the old records by a lot. They could clear it by over 100 shots allowed, and I don't think any team is going to touch that for another 50, 60, 70 years. We might all be, mulch by that point. I mean, I don't want to sound maudlin here, but, we might all just be worm food when that record gets broken again. Because I don't foresee a team being that bad defensively for the rest of my life. It's bad. Oh, and there was another record that I also have to mention that I alluded to. Cam Fowler also has a record that he just completely toppled over, and I believe this was on Saturday's game. So just bear with me on this. Cam Fowler has the all-time record for most minutes played in a game. Yeah, this was ridiculous. He did this while I was trying to work a game at Coachella Valley. And this was Saturday's game against the Coyotes. But Cam Fowler got 38 minutes and 55 seconds of ice time. Ever since on-ice tracking began, he now has the record. He surpassed Dennis Wideman for the Calgary Flames back on January 18th, 2014. Wideman had 38 minutes and 5 seconds. Cam Fowler, 38 minutes and 55 seconds. He broke the record by 50 seconds. That's a lot of time on the ice. Poor Cam Fowler. Just had to get out there because, you had guys that were out, guys that are injured. These things happen. And these things happen when you have absolutely zero defense to talk about. So, congratulations, Cam Fowler. You are now part of the NHL record book, along with the rest of the 2023 Anaheim Mighty Ducks. We're going to head to the first intermission. I'm going to talk about the last couple of games over the weekend. We'll get to that on the other side. But first, I want to talk to you guys about FanDuel. That's right. We're excited to have FanDuel as our official online sports betting partner. And you know what? Playoffs, they're coming. Not only is the NHL playoffs coming, but the NBA playoffs are coming as well. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup? Who's going to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy? For the NBA, could it be the Milwaukee Bucks in the East? Could it be the Phoenix Suns in the West? That's what a lot of people are saying as far as the NHL. Can anybody knock the Boston Bruins off the top of the mountain? Or are the Bruins a team of destiny? You could find all those lines and more at FanDuel.com/LockedOn. And new customers can get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 back if your first bet does not win. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 back when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to sign up right now. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please gamble responsibly. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. And let's talk about the last two games, which I will admit I did not watch live. I actually listened to both of them on the radio because I wasn't near a TV. Saturday I was busy with Fan Appreciation Day at Coachella. And Sunday I was just leaving Coachella Valley overtime game. So I listened to the dulcet tones of two of my favorite radio broadcasters in the land, Steve Carroll and Dan Wood. I've said it before, gonna say it again. They're underrated. They are two of the best in the business. And if you're not doing this every game, if you're not muting the TV and listening to Steve and Dan, what are you doing? You're missing out, because I feel like I get so much more knowledge listening to those two on the radio than anyone else on TV. And that goes for the national broadcasts as well. So going through Saturday's game, they did make light of the shots record that I put out about last week. So it got through to Steve and Dan. Hey, cool. Yeah. Look, they didn't mince words there. I mean, they were very upfront. This is a team that has, to their point, they're right. It lacks a defensive identity. For them to say that they're lacking a defensive identity, I don't want to say that's damning. That's truthful. It's the truth. There is no identity right now, given that so many guys have left. Manson, Lindholm, Klingberg, etc. Well, especially Lindholm and Fowler. Not Fowler, and Manson. Fowler's still here. With Manson gone and with Lindholm gone, oh boy. That is some pretty decent defensive depth that is now gone. And over here on terrific teams, one of them just won a Stanley Cup last year. One of them might win a Stanley Cup this season. And that shows you that you don't know what you have till it's gone. And this is especially true for the Ducks because, there is no identity. And they're absolutely right. There was no identity on Saturday's game against the Coyotes. And there was definitely not much of an identity against the Colorado Avalanche. Nope, not even close. Not even when we had the Ducks break that record on Saturday's game. And as soon as I saw shot number 31, I tweeted it right there. The Ducks just broke the record for most shots in a season. Yep, it was bad. They allowed 39 shots against the Phoenix Coyotes in an overtime loss. 5-4. Good old Christian Fischer was back at it again, scoring for the Yotes. Yahoo. Guess what the Ducks did again? They allowed a power play goal again, but they got a power play goal as well. One of my favorite guys, Uncle Rico, Adam Henrique, scored not one but 2 goals in this game at Mullet Arena. That was fun to watch. Also, Max Jones from the Elite 1C, Derek Grant, he also got a goal. But also, Ryan Strome got in there. So, yeah, that was cool to watch, too. Woo! And then Matthias Maselli scored with under a minute left. This happened again. This happens over and over and over again. I said this on the last episode. I'm going to say it again. The Ducks blew a lead in the last minute. They did it again. I know a lot of us are Team Tank, but it still looks bad when you blow a late lead like that again. Under a minute left, gave up the game-tying goal, and then allowed the game-winning goal in overtime. Lather, rinse, repeat. We've seen this before, haven't we? You know, I'm going to do like a whole breakdown on this at some point on how many times they've done this, but it has happened a lot. And it's reared its ugly head again. This not only speaks to a lack of a defensive identity, because this totally relates to that. Just a lack of an identity to close out games in general. They have had this problem over the last 4 years. There has been no killer instinct in closing out games where they have a lead and they lose it. And this was a game I legit wanted the Ducks to win this game. I said, if there's one game the rest of this season that I wanted the Ducks to win, it was this one. It was this one against Phoenix. Frickin' Phoenix. Did it again. I'm sick of those guys. I'm sick of the Coyotes. I'm sick of their fans. Sorry if you're a Coyotes fan watching this, but, you know, I'm sick of it. Sick of their announcers. Just, you know, spewing crap, as they always do, because that's what they do. It's disheartening to see the Ducks just lose games like this continuously, and to lose it in that fashion against the Coyotes. That was bad. This despite Adam Henrique having a terrific game. This despite Ryan Strome having another stellar game on this one. But what I loved, Ryan Strome also got a Gordie Howe hat trick on this game. Yeah, and he did it pretty quickly too, because Strome got the assist in the first period, got that goal in the second period. Also on the assist on that one, the Elite 1C Derek Grant. So Ryan Strome scored that one with about 8 minutes left. And then less than a minute after that, he got in a fight. And I love that both Dan and Steve were kind of joking around a little bit when they said, oh, look at that. You know, he got the goal, the assist. He wanted the Gordie Howe hat trick. May as well, right? Like, I do appreciate the lightheartedness that they went into with that. Like, hey, Ryan Strome, like, got a Gordie Howe hat trick. Like, we haven't seen that too much from the Ducks this season because there hasn't been a whole lot of fight in the Ducks this season. So, yeah, you can make light of that all you want. You know, this is the kind of player that Ryan Strome is. So, you know what? Good on him. Good on him showing some fight against those stupid Yotes. And good on him for also getting the goal and the assist. Wound up with 2 assists on this game. So a 3-point night and a fight. Love it. I sincerely hope we see more of that next season with the Ducks from Ryan Strome. And I'm going to continue to be high on him into next season if we can still see that little bit of fight in him. Now let's talk about yesterday's game. which was also upsetting because Lukáš Dostal got the start on Sunday's game. Ole Eriksson got the start on Saturday. I didn't expect him to win. But Dostal, he was on one yesterday. In fact, I even put out a tweet. Screw the tank. Screw the tank. Just get out there and win the game for Dostal because he was doing magical stuff. He was pulling out some kind of just wonderful goaltending sorcery on the defending Stanley Cup champions. He was on it and he was brilliant. You know how many shots Dostal saw yesterday? You know how many? 46. 46 shots, and he wound up stopping 41 of them. Yeah. The expected goals in this one were almost 6-2 in favor of Colorado. So, yeah, even though he gave up 5 goals, he was still above the expected goals scored in this game. 6 expected goals, and he let in 5 of them. So you know what? Dostal looked pretty good, all things considered, right? And this is when you had a guy on one side who is just absolutely killing it on the ice. I'm talking about Mikko Rantanen, who scored not 1 but 2 goals, one of them on the power play. Mikko Rantanen now has 54 goals in the season. You heard that right. 54. 1 on the power play. Oh, and Nathan MacKinnon, he blasted one just outside the reach of Lukáš Dostal, also on the power play. Look, if you're the Ducks and you allow Colorado to get 8 power plays, you're damn right you're going to get burned on this one. The last 3 goals of the game were all power play goals for Colorado because the Ducks had no discipline on this game. They were just getting penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty in the third period and in overtime. Now, granted, 1 or 2 of those calls might have been a little bit soft, and they probably could have just put the whistles away for those ones. But you've still got to have better discipline than that. You've got to. And that was the moral of the game right there. 3 goals allowed on 8 power play chances. That's all you need to know for this one. The Ducks lost this one, also by the same score of 5-4. Also in overtime, also blowing a late lead. They had a 4-2 lead in the third period and blew this one too. So twice in the weekend, the Ducks blow a late lead and allow the game-winning goal in overtime. If you want to talk about lack of identity, no. That's their identity. That is the Ducks' identity under Coach Dallas Eakins. Blowing late leads and allowing the game-winning goal later on. This has happened far too much. Even worse, they got the 2 loser points, and they no longer have the best odds at getting Connor Bedard. So that's where the Ducks are at the moment. I'm going to talk more about that in general on tomorrow's podcast. So make sure you're tuned in for that one. In the meantime, I think we're just going to wrap it up here for now. And I will say thank you all for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, ad-free on Amazon, and also on the YouTubes, so make sure you're subscribed. You could follow me on Twitter at StimpyJD. The show's Twitter's at LO_Ducks. If you want to drop me a line, you could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. I'm going to get back to everybody tonight. So once again, thanks for your comments, and thanks so much for your continued support. It is greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason J.D. Hernandez, saying have a great rest of the afternoon and evening. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.